Car prices have been steadily rising over the past few years, outperforming the stock market in 2020, 2021, and 2022, while increasing by twice as much as home prices. Look no further than the three main categories that are ultimately coming to an end to understand why vehicle prices have become the best performing assets in recent times. The first would be limited production, since you need all the necessary parts to properly make a car, and one cannot make a car without one. The second would be limited demand, since you need all the necessary parts to properly make a car, and one cannot make a car without the other. In this video, we will talk about the cost of cars is expected to decrease by 50% in 2023. But before that, please like, subscribe, and click the bell button for the latest economic updates. Now let's get started. Despite the fact that a modern car now needs more than a few thousand of these chips to operate, the auto industry only uses about 3% of the total chip supply, with the remainder being used by consumers. These semiconductors allow the car to operate nearly every random aspect of the vehicle, including windows, sensors, ignition, and navigation. That until it breaks is still completely ignored today. According to Kelley Blue Book, a typical semiconductor production line can have up to 700 different manufacturing processes, spread out over a period of 14 weeks. Toyota reduced production by 50,000 vehicles in July. Second, our interest rates are extremely low. Similar to the housing market, car buyers had access to record low interest rates for as long as 12 years until recently, which made cars more accessible than ever. In the property market, when consumers had more disposable income, they drove up prices. Third, greed. We shouldn't be surprised by this, because any good businessperson would put shareholder interest. However, in this situation, automakers have discovered that they can increase profits by reducing costs. As a result, the average car payment has increased to over $700 per month, with 1 in 8 buyers paying over $1,000 each month. Mercedes-Benz is also following this path, while simultaneously shifting gears towards the higher luxury end, which means they will likely rename the same thing to sound fancier so that they can charge more. Ford has even hinted that they may transition to a built-to-order business model, while Mercedes is also moving in this direction while also upping its luxury game, so they'll probably rename the same thing to sound fancier so they can charge more. Why car prices are beginning to crash here is what you need to know. All of a sudden, car repos are exploding. Normally, this would be attributed to coming off record lows with loan forbearance, where any uptick would appear significantly exponential. The situation is getting so bad that banks are warning that falling prices would leave many of their borrowers underwater, where they owe more on the car than the car is worth. However, in this case, the consumptive demand for cars is causing the repos to skyrocket. Nevertheless, here is what this means for the future of the market, and why car prices are starting to fall. Wells Fargo specifically mentioned that higher loss rates for loans that originated last year contributed to an increase in write-offs for the period. Further, the Mesh Talk blog cited a tweet. When you consider it, it makes sense, because the general rule is to apply the so-called 24-10 rule, which suggests that car buyers are starting to back out of their purchases if they can't pay back the loans on their vehicle. A loan for 4 years with an annual transportation cost cap of $10. Although the down payment is 20%, the reality is very different. With an average loan term of 72 months and a vehicle retention period of 71.4 months, the average down payment is only 11.7%. In other words, before selling the first car and refinancing the remaining balance into a new loan, which starts the process all over again, people haven't even finished making payments on the first car. But as everyone knows, car prices don't typically rise this quickly. In fact, KPMG predicts that as more supply enters the market, used car prices could fall by as much as 30%. Over the next year, Ally Financial predicts a 20% decline. It is easy to see how a buyer could become quickly and significantly underwater in a down market, especially if that situation spreads to the entire market. The biggest issue with auto financing is that it quickly becomes everyone's problem. Let's say, for example, that you took out a loan for $45,000 to purchase a car that is now only worth $25,000, and you are finding it difficult to make the $700 monthly payment. Because the interest rates are much higher now than they were a year ago, and you don't have the $15,000 up front to sell it. As a result, you might decide to give up and leave, but let's see how this might affect the market. In order to illustrate how stable a business model can be, let's take a look at CarMax. Customers can bring in almost any car and receive an instant offer good for up to 7 days. If the customer accepts the offer, CarMax can then resell the vehicle at a profit. However, recently, their stock has dropped by 60%, signaling trouble for the entire industry. In addition, they made it clear that their customers are suffering from a triple whammy as inflation drives up the price of cars. As I previously mentioned, prices decreased by 1.72 to 3.68% for subcompact, mid-size, and full-size cars from one week to the next due to rising interest rates making them harder to finance and declining consumer confidence. Additionally, dealers have been shifting inventory from auction to retail in an effort to get a higher price, which has increased supply and caused further price decline. The pinnacle of 2020's euphoria is represented by Carvana, the used car retailer famous for its 24-hour car vending machines throughout the United States, where customers could literally walk up, insert a coin, and drive away in a used car. However, looking at what's happening right now, Carvana has lost an average of $32.55 on each vehicle sold, and its stock has fallen more than 95% this year. According to reports, Wells Fargo tightened underwriting guidelines after spotting indications that borrowers were defaulting, which led to a 40% decrease in the volume of auto loans the bank originated. The bank even goes so far as to claim that borrowers are now debating whether it's worthwhile to keep up with their payments, which could be challenging. Secondly, car prices are starting to decline after doubling from pre-recession highs. This is similar to the rise and subsequent decline of many homegrown tech stocks, including Shopify, Netflix, Zoom, Pelican, and many others. Third, if lenders suffer significant losses, this is likely to be reflected in banks and automakers' stock prices, depressing the market as a whole. For example, even though many of their stocks have already declined, it's unclear how much has already been factored in, and depending on the state of the economy, unemployment, and interest rates, things could get much worse. Some good advice is to sell your car and get something more reasonable if you're having trouble making payments or if you're worried about losing your job and falling behind on your car payments. You can also talk to your bank about repayment options. They might be willing to work with you. Most auto loans have a fixed interest rate, so even if the buyer owes more on the loan, the interest will still be fixed. However, the global automotive industry faced many obstacles in 2022, including high interest rates, supply chain issues, and recessionary fears. It's unlikely that those problems will be solved right away. On Wall Street, there is growing concern that the supply shortages this year could quickly develop into a demand destruction scenario just as auto production is finally starting to pick up. Given inflation, interest rates, and energy costs, there is active demand destruction in the industry, according to Bernstein analyst Daniel Roska, but so far, this has primarily affected the backlog. In contrast to conventional downturns or previous lulls in demand, most analysts anticipate an increase in global and U.S. auto sales in 2023. This is mainly because, since the COVID-19 pandemic began in early 2020, auto sales in the United States and other countries were already at or close to recessionary levels. The pandemic disrupted global supply chains and manufacturing, forcing automakers to drastically reduce production. Due to the consequent lack of new cars, trucks, and SUVs, automakers and dealers demanded and received significantly higher prices for the vehicles they could deliver. So, what's your takeaway from this video? Let us know in the comment section below. If you found this video informative, make sure to hit the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update from us. Thank you for watching. We'll see you at the next one. Until then, peace.